Maybe we should just get started. There's a lot of other people that I thought were coming. But welcome everybody. Do I see any other
I can't get my view.
Yeah, okay. All right. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Can you hear me?
All right, so everybody got the minutes. Are there any other changes? Would anybody like to make any changes in the minutes? That's a resounding silence.
I move to accept.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
How do I?
Okay.
That's you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
but how do I?
There's Mike. Let's see. So other than Ann, I don't see any other guests. I thought that Jenny was coming again, but maybe not. Okay, so let's be, Ann gonna have a report on the zero waste program and what the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency is up to. And also I thought because that's so related to the last EMC meeting, I thought that Carol could also opt in on this too. But let's have Ann let us know what she's going to do, and then Carol can add, subtract, divide, or multiply, whatever she likes. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Carol and I both attended the last EMC. Are those is that the
Yes.
letters of that
Yeah.
meeting? And and that was super interesting. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ann Peters. I am the most recently elected Ulster County legislator for Saugerties District 2. I've been appointed to the Energy, Environment, and Sustainability Committee. So I will be actively following and working on environmental issues as they relate to Saugerties. I'm hearing my audio is shaking. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix that. So, okay, so what's going on right now with the zero waste implementation plan? And you may already know this, but this is just all that I know, is that the Ulster County Legislature has given budgeted $10,000 for a study to be done on the best zero waste implementation plan or a suggested implementation plan. And so that is, they already have an RFP out. Somebody already responded to it. They're already in contract with them. And so this is moving forward. As far as what the boundaries are for that plan, that has not been determined. There is a meeting that's going to happen between Mark Ryder, Chris Hewitt, and other department heads related to this. That's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that I know about any new news relating to the zero waste implementation plan. Yeah, but I'm happy to take any questions, and I will definitely follow up since learning a lot and trying to catch up and getting all the information. So if there are holes or something you want to follow up on, let me know. Happy to follow up.
Carol, do you want to add anything to?
I was just wondering, I'm not sure because I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, there seems to be an
reverberate
echo.
as well.
I wonder if we all mute ourselves, if that would help.
Okay, and if I mute myself, that would be great. No.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's actually better. Thank you. The only thing I was wondering, and was that plan to have a planner go around to events and to understand how to create zero waste implementation at different events? Or was that a separate thing?
That was a separate thing. So my understanding is that that's the follow-up to Green the Scene. Like that's the 2026 update to Green the Scene program that the executive's office had,
Okay,
where they were trying to so now they're doing like an actual event planner. So I think at that EMC meeting we went to, they were talking about how they're putting out a job offer for people to apply for, right? Does that
yeah,
sound
that's
right
what
to
I
you?
remember.
Yeah. So so for everybody else, Green the Scene was an executive a program last year where they would give you compostable cups and dishes and things and set up a program for events for zero waste and composting. So what they found is that what really people need is an event planner for that, right? Not just handing the things over, but actually somebody to work on all the parts that implement that best for an event. And so that's where they're going with that in the future, and they're looking to hire somebody. So that's the update on that. So that is separate. That might be part of the zero waste implementation plan. Eventually, you know, when it's all done, but at the moment, that's a separate entity directly from the executive's office.
Okay,
And
thanks.
so what you've referred to of putting out the RFP is an entity to see that the zero waste implementation plan is borne out, is implemented. And that's what the RFP is for that. And that plan is something I sent to everybody last, that you were asking about details. That plan I sent as an attachment last month. So if you want to know what we're talking about relative to implementing that plan and what the RFP was meant to, what a vendor was going to do, that's the plan I sent last month. That was so that there might have been some of those details included in it, but it's a bigger, larger plan than just an event planner. So look at that, that was done in 2019. And that's what they've been working on, trying to get someone to implement the implementation plan. So what I believe, and I think Ann can, conclude on this, is that they've gotten someone to say, yes, I can do an implementation of this plan. And that plan and what they're talking about is what the copy I sent you last month.
So I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, and we might be splitting hairs. So I should get clarification on this.
You should.
I'm not convinced that. So, okay, there are two separate things here. We have Green the Scene from the executive office about the getting better tools to events in Ulster County to be more zero waste. Then we have the zero waste implementation plan. That plan is not complete. The RFP is for an organization, I think it's called Solid Waste Consulting or something along those lines. They are finishing the plan. They're not implementing it. They're finishing it and figuring out what would work best for Ulster County. Because that's why Mark Ryder from UCRA is going to be in that meeting to make sure that what they're putting onto UCRA is something that UCRA can actually do, right? So we have not approved implementation plan, and we're not executing an implementation plan right now. We're still planning the plan, if that makes sense.
Okay, so what I saw and what I was supplied by the county was Resolution 451 that was approved by the legislature in 2019 that was called the Zero Waste Implementation Plan. They approved that as a complete plan, and as I understood it, they were looking for someone to follow that up and see that it happened. So we have to get clarity on this, because what I thought and what I thought you were talking about relative to that was the county had put out an RFP, and they had between 2019 and now they were having difficulty at that price finding
Yep.
someone who wanted to do that. And I
Yep.
thought when you said, that someone had answered the RFP, I thought what you meant was they had agreed to do the implementation plan, not do anything more or less with it. Because if what you're saying is true, if that ZWIP is not complete,
No.
well, it was already passed by the legislature. So we
The
might,
450, I thought the 451 was just an intention for a zero waste plan. There wasn't
It is an
actually
intention, and
anything
it is
parsed
an
out.
intention. It is an intention. And
Right.
they wanted somebody to lay it out, to make it real.
Right. And so that's exactly. So we're on the same page, right? So that is what's the $10,000 and these hiring of solid waste consulting is for, is to take 450, take that implementation plan and work it out into something we can implement.
Yes, okay. All right.
And I'd just like to add that Mark Ryder did a great slideshow presentation on his initial thinking about it and talking about the circular economy.
Now let's stop. Now let's stop a bit. We're talking about the zero implementation plan, which is separate from what Mark Ryder is wanting to do with the waste. Those are two separate things. And the issue was that what Mark Ryder was going after with Global to do a biomass solution is separate from the zero waste implementation plan. And the issue there was what Mark Ryder would do, would that usurp what was planned in the zero waste plan? So the zero waste plan
It's not-
is a total separate entity from what Mark Ryder presented at the EMC. I was there too, in going out to global industries and doing that gasification plan. Those are two separate entities.
Are there special provisos for the person to be hired for this job, for the zero implementation plan going forward?
That's what the RFP was.
Right.
Yeah, that's what the RFP was. Oops, sorry. I don't know what the RFP said. That was before my time. I'd have to look that up. That is a good question. I can find out.
So let's get this clear next time. And maybe you'll have more information. You know what? At the EMC, Mark Ryder spelled out all the machinations of what was going on with the waste
Yes.
stream program and what his, with UCRRA was doing. And he was willing to talk to other groups. Maybe we should have him talk to us. But that plan for what to do with the waste is a separate entity from the zero waste plan. He said he said specifically he could have that plan in what his plans were.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a separate plan. And what the issue was the food waste issue, and whether it would be, the zero waste implementation plan said that food waste thing would go to compostables. The question was Global's gasification plan, did that have to take that food waste out to make it successful, or could it stay under the
I have an answer on that, Skip.
Okay.
I asked that question. So he said that there's always going to be food compost. There's always going to be food waste in garbage because there's always contaminated cardboard. There's always contaminated paper, all of those things. And so the contaminated stuff is enough to do what that system requires. They can still take compost out. That should still be part of the plan.
Okay, great. Okay.
But what people throw, because also you have margin of error, people throwing things out, what have you. There's an assumed margin of error there plus contamination.
Okay, so there was a question, and that's the answer. If they don't have to take that's pure food waste away from what the zero waste plan might want to designate it to. That was one question. Okay, so does anybody else have any other questions about either the zero waste plan or the counties, going forward on the waste plan?
So
Okay.
the other thing I wanted to report back to you is that the Department of Environment expressed interest in visiting all CAC meetings in the county in order to get a sense of what it is that you folks are working on and looking at, and things like that. I've taken that idea and I'm hoping to put together a study to see what municipalities have been successful with and what they're working on and maybe struggling with, to see how we can do an information sharing between the different CAC committees throughout the entire county. I would love to know from you do you already have an information sharing thing there for this, or am I creating something that's needed, or am I creating something you already do? And I wanted to check in on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and we don't. Not that I'm aware
Okay,
of.
awesome.
I mean,
Okay,
there
great.
is not a vehicle within our, what we've been doing that shares information. Our basic communication was through back and forth through the town board, and that was the limit of that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm hoping I'm going to be meeting with director of the CAC, Andy Bicking, and the executive staff to see how what's where the holes are. Municipality programs might be working really, really well, in Saugerties, but then in like Wawarsing, they might not be. Well, let's share that information, right? So that's one of the things that we're going to be hopefully working on. In the next couple months.
Great.
So.
And in the future, I think that we should have Andy come by. Once you've developed that, maybe that would be a subject that he could speak to and work
Yep.
out. Does anybody have any more questions about this? Okay. Thank you very much, Ann. Really, really, really appreciate it. I'm really glad you're taking the initiative on this. And it would be,
Sure.
also that Mark Ryder said that he would be willing to come in front of CAC and explain the plans with Global and everything, and it's going to take another 6 months. And I would suggest that we take him up on that offer, once they have it. And maybe you can report back to us when it seems like it was up in the air a lot, although the presentation was very good. It seemed like there
Yeah,
was.
well, because they're still figuring out exactly the parameters. So what's going on there is the Global has said we can do, X, Y, or Z. And so Mark Ryder said that they're doing testing and things to make sure that Global can actually do what they're promising.
Okay.
And so they're kind of doing the testing and their research to make sure that what they can do what they said they're going to do, and that is implementable based on the budget that they've presented, all of those sort of details.
In other words, if the gasification is a practical
Yep.
thing before they give them $100,000 or $100 million or whatever it
That's
is.
right.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks a lot, Anna. Really appreciate your efforts.
Sure, no problem. Take care,
Okay.
guys.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to Climate Smart Task Force and CCAP. And Mary would like to speak to that. Made some.
Yeah, hi
Oh,
everyone.
geez.
I'm having a computer camera issue here, so bear with me. Okay, so at the last meeting, we decided that having looked at reducing emissions from the transportation sector, we decided we would just include Saugerties-based vehicle emissions. That was what Stephen had worked on, that the premise was that the town can control to some extent Saugerties-based vehicles, those emissions, but the town had, very little control over the overall emissions, the emissions from the non-Saugerties-based vehicles. So that's where we left it back in January. And having looked at it since, and I did send an email around, I don't know, a week and a half ago. So with that, with the way it was left in January, the emissions from the transportation sector from Saugerties, the emission reduction would be 4% of the 250,000 plus emissions. 4% of all the emissions that we're saying we could reduce is 4%. So when I thought about that, I thought that we should revisit that. So that's what I'm presenting tonight, that we should revisit that number for the following reason. First of all, as we know, transportation is the largest emitter. 55% of the emissions are transportation. So my suggestion is that we go back and look at that. And my suggestion in the email was to increase, to aim to increase the emissions from the non Saugerties based vehicles to 20%, to try and increase that. And how could we do that? Well, first of all, should we do that? Secondly, what would be the strategy? We said that the town really does not have control over it, but if our strategy is to advocate for state and county and other agencies to advocate for programs that reduce the emissions in the transportation sector. We know the state can do this through their programs. We know about the New York State truck voucher program, where and companies that have large vehicles, they can get a voucher, they can get incentives to go to electricity. That's just one program, to go to electric vehicles. That's just one program. So the point would be, do we want to increase the number of reductions in the transportation sector? And then the strategies would be to advocate, for the town to advocate, for the community to advocate and support state legislation that's being proposed, or something that's being done in the counties to support those programs that are going to reduce the emissions from the non-Saugerties based vehicles. So that's pretty much the question. So number one, are we comfortable with having only 4% of the emissions, having only 4% of the emissions from transportation, or do we want to increase it? And if we do want to increase it, do you think it's reasonable to have a strategy to advocate for and support state, federal, county, other agencies, programs to reduce the emissions? So there we go.
So the suggestion is that our goal, instead of being just 4%, would be 20%. And that how a strategy to accomplish that would be advocacy at the state, county, or possible federal level to see that that's done, because we don't have any direct control. But our strategy would be advocacy, and that our advocacy would be aimed at increasing that number from 4 to 20%. Is that?
Yeah, that summarizes it. And it would be 20% overall by 2040. So, we're talking about going out to 2040. Is it unreasonable to aim for a 20% reduction in transportation for the town by 2040? There's so much unknown out there. There's just so much unknown. Is what does the future hold? And if you think about it, even 20% is pretty conservative when you think of the total emissions that we have in transportation here in the town.
Right. Stephen, you have your hand
I
up?
agree.
Stephen has his hand up.
I think the chance of our even reducing Saugerties based emissions by 4% of grand total of 21,000, whatever the number was, is not great. The chance of our influencing the state to make big reductions of that proportion is even less. It's a matter of what does it mean to say we would advocate? The town board would send a letter to the county legislature and to our state legislators and say we need more incentives for electric vehicles and so forth. Is that how we would advocate? And we can.
There would be two ways to advocate. Yes, one would be through the town government to advocate and support. Another way would be, excuse me, for the entire community, the community to advocate and support if legislation is being considered, to support that through our state representatives. So that would be two ways. those would be ways that we could, that the town community and the town board could. And on the point of what are the chances of the state doing anything, the state, as we know, has a very, very ambitious climate action plan for up to 240 and 2050. So the state, the state has a big stake in this. And because of their action plan and their need to meet their goals, I think it's reasonable to think that they're going to want to come up with programs. They're going to want to come up with ways to reduce especially the transportation emissions, because not only are they the transportation is not only the greatest emitter of a greenhouse gas in Saugerties, it's for the whole state. I think it may even be nationwide. I'm not sure about that. So I think that the state has an incentive and to come up with programs that reduce emissions.
Carol? Carol?
Yeah, give me a chance to mute. I
Okay.
just did.
Okay.
So number one, the information that we got was through the county. That's where these measures come from. And obviously we have some control over our county as well. So we could talk about advocating through the county and possibly having more EV stations, more possibilities for people to stop somewhere and charge up. So yeah, it's true. It does go through Saugerties, and I know they do it by account, and I don't know who counted, but that's one thought. And I think these are not goals. These are sort of aspirations. Isn't that what we talked about last time? So I don't know that we should limit ourselves at this point, because if we don't have aspirations or goals, then it won't happen at all.
Right.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Yes, I tend to agree with Mary and Carol that 4% is woefully small. And even if we couldn't get 20%, 20% by 2040 seems like a reasonable goal to me, and advocacy would be a reasonable approach toward that end. More EVs are coming into on the road, and I think the general sense is to move forward with a 20% goal by 2040.
Stephanie?
Hey everyone, I hope you'll entertain a comment from an observer. I just wanted to add that I have heard, without having the source data, that the Solite plant is the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions in Saugerties. And if that's true, or no matter if it is, understanding the balance of contributors would maybe help refine the target of improvement, because if that is the case, that Solite plant is a very dominant polluter. I'm wondering if if incremental changes to transportation practices in the region would have, or in the town specifically, would have the impact that Mary is suggesting that the town aim for.
Well, to answer that,
Regarding the industrial sector and Northeast Solite, they're the second largest contributor. 17% of the emissions in the town inventory come from Northeast Solite. So, and we do have in the plan, aiming to reduce the emissions from Northeast Solite. I believe it was 10% by 2035 and another 10% by 2040.
and I think if I'm not mistaken, Mary, we're talking about that 4 to 20% is a change in the transportation section
Only.
itself,
Right.
not the overall. So yes,
Exactly.
we're aware of the Solite thing. You know, there's not much we can do. What we suggested that maybe a task force should be implemented, including Solite, to start a conversation between the town and Solite to see what can be done. So that would be our, advocacy there, to try to get that done. So yeah, we are aware of that, and that is significant. Where it's not only Saugerties, it is the biggest polluter in all of the county because we're the only one that has any industry.
Yeah.
So yes, but it is important. But I think this discussion here is aimed specifically at the transportation section and increasing that section from a goal of or an aim of 4% to an aim of 20%.
Great, thank you. And I would just add that this proposal, if it hasn't been coordinated with STAC, and their advocacy work and connections to county policy, then I would encourage, that to be in the next steps of the process for the CAC.
Yeah, I think once the plan gets adopted by the town board, that that can happen, and as you say, that really should happen, so that there's there's coordination and cooperation among the different
Yeah, I guess what just last thing what I meant was the plan itself and the setting of goals and other aspects of the plan being coordinated with STAC rather than the implementation part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Elizabeth, you have your hand up?
No, I'm sorry. I was just turning the light on.
Okay, then Michael.
Yeah, I wonder about school buses, being that they are in every town. What is the county position on moving to electric buses? What's the state position on moving to electric buses? How could we, through Mary's suggestion, make that one of our pushes, that towns be on a regulated basis move towards electric buses? I mean, it would seem that would be one of the main ways within our town that we could alter emissions. So I don't know what if the state is going in that direction. Mary, do you know?
I'm not aware, Mike. No, I do not know. And I don't know in terms of like the school district. I'm not aware.
Yeah, because the county is, of course, moving all of their buses, if not already, to electric. So the county is moving in that way. Can the county in some way encourage townships?
Well, that could be part of our advocacy.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting.
Right.
Yeah.
As a specific to our town.
Yeah, 2 points on that. One, as we know, the school district is a separate jurisdiction, and the school district contracts with the different bus companies. So the town could certainly, talk to the school district and work with the school board in that, but the town would not have direct influence or direct opportunity to have electric school buses. So, that has to be taken into consideration.
Unless there are specific emissions guidelines that the schools are mandated to follow.
Right.
So
right, if it came from the state, exactly, Mike. If it's state,
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Not the town. Absolutely. And under the strategies in the plan, is to, to cooperate with the school district and the county, to cooperate with the different entities to help reduce emissions. And that would be one way, to do it.
So Elizabeth, you still have your hand up. Did you want
I'm
to say
sorry.
something?
I don't know how to get it down. I'll just mention one thing that I thought that it was very wise at the town board meeting the other night when uh, um, to have cameras in school buses so that cars speeding by would not endanger children, and whether, I know that has more to do with safety than transportation per se, but that might also be another way of, how do I get
Lower your hand, you go down to
to
have
that?
react.
React. Yep,
Okay,
click on React and then it'll lower hand.
okay, Linda?
Yes, there, and I'm looking at it. New York State is offering 500 million in total funding through the New York School Bus Incentive Program, managed by NYSERDA. So that is available to apply for grants to get the buses to zero emissions. I can send you all the link if you want.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and that goes to the point of supporting these kinds of initiatives and
Exactly.
programs that that the state is proposing.
And what you also mentioned is it's available to public school districts and third-party school bus operators, which is, I
Perfect.
believe, what we have. So I'll send the link to everyone.
Okay. Hey, this is off subject here. Kevin, Mike Ivino just texted me. Can you send him a link to the meeting and say it's online?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, he
Good.
thought it was a town hall or something. So send him a link saying, yeah, we're here, come on. He might have a lot to say about the best portion. Okay, so is there any other comment on this? So I think that we have to make our aspirations high. And even though, like Stephen said, it's unlikely we're going to get to 4%. Let's go for it because that at least says we're going to do the advocacy for this. So making it 20%, would be my vote that we do that, and it would inspire us to, reach out to the town and reach out and find out things like Linda says about the buses and stuff like that. That would be my thing. So,
Yeah, just one further thought, when Stephen was asking about would it be the town board, et cetera, but there's the Association of Town Supervisors, and I'm sure all the communities are having the same issue with reducing the emissions in transportation. So that would be another group that could be effective perhaps in having programs and that will help reduce emissions.
right. Well, that also vis-a-vis what Ann said about coordination between CACs. We could use that as a vehicle for a mutual advocacy.
Exactly.
So,
Good point.
so I'd like to move that we do what Mary has suggested, an increase in the transportation section from 4 to 20%. So we're going to vote on this. Okay, is everybody up for that?
Yes.
Well, Stephen and Michael both have their hands up. Stephen?
I'm just that's fine with me, but is there any way we can find out what the other towns on the thruway are doing? Because that's a special problem that East Greenbush doesn't have, that we have. And Catskill, Saugerties, Kingston, Ulster, all the way down. It'd be interesting to know if they're going to try to take an ambitious road like what Mary is proposing, or a more cautious road like what I proposed. Is it protocol for us to ask them?
Stephen, I think, yeah, I mean, surely you could ask them, but this is the deadline. Carol had asked about a deadline for this plan. And as far as I'm concerned, this is really the deadline. We can go on and on and on and
Okay.
on.
No,
And yeah, and I think
we need
it's
to
been
meet
going
the
on for a
deadline.
year and a half right now. So I would really like to wrap it up. I wouldn't want to delay it by doing any further research. But listen, if somebody else wants to move this, if somebody else wants to follow up in any avenue to make changes, I'm fine with that. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the deadline.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Oh, Leslie has her hand up.
No, I was raising my hand in favor.
Okay, okay, great.
Thank you all very much for coming along with this and for all your suggestions and support on this. So I guess.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for all the work, Mary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the next step will be, of course, I will finalize it in terms of adding some of the points that were made this evening in terms of I might strengthen some of the strategy areas in terms of advocacy and support. And then the next step, of course, would be to present it to the town board as a draft for their consideration and hopefully eventually adopting. So, okay, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, so next up is Nicole, and she has a draft proposal for a possible tree local law. And I attached that with the announcement. So you want to present something about
Sure.
that, Nicole?
Sure, I'm just introducing it for the tree group. We have a tree subgroup here for the conservation for climate. I don't know if it's part of climate or the CAC. I still don't know, but anyway, one of them. And it represents both really, but basically in 2022, we were wanted the town to be looking into the town becoming a Tree City USA, because the village is, but the town's not. And what would it take? And it would take having a tree policy, and we don't have one. So then we had a tree subgroup get together to look into what other towns like ours are doing for tree protection. And we found that a couple of the village's tree policy is just about street trees predominantly, so it just doesn't apply to what's going on in the town, because street trees are different than what we're dealing with development and everything. So we looked at some New Paltz, their tree and policy, and Mount Kisco was one, and I did look at Woodstock too, but and then we just kind of like put it together from there. And it's been many years, obviously, that we've been revising this since then. And the other thing that came up right at the beginning was that there were some people were seeing that developers coming in or just clear cutting huge acres and acres, and we saw that happen across the street from the school, the elementary school, Grantee Morse, and a huge swath of land was clear cut, and that's just. And then sometimes, and another happened on Pine Lane, a huge area, many acres was clear cut, and then they plopped a couple of houses down. I don't know who were the builders, but that did that. But again, just no concern for the impact it might have, and the concern that if as development continues on in Saugerties, are we going to how much of the tree cover do we want to lose with these big developments? Also concern is Winston Farm. So basically it's been revised multiple times. We expect it's going to be revised multiple times, and eventually I think we're going to take it to the board and see what they say. So we're just bringing it to the committee now, and if anybody has any questions or comments about how we go about this, that would be great.
Does anybody want to come? Stephen? I think you're
Yeah.
Stephen,
Okay.
you're
Yes.
muted.
Now I'm unmuted, right?
There you are.
One thing, how does one replace say one of your specimen or heritage trees with a tree of comparable value? I was puzzled at how that would be done.
Well,
Is
nobody,
there
of course,
something
you
I
can't
missed
do
in the
that.
text that-
But it would, I guess, with the other, in the other towns, when a giant heritage or a specimen tree was taken down, they would have to plant, and we'd decide how many trees needed to be planted to replace that. But no, you could never replace the amount of time and energy it would take that tree to grow, of course. Exactly.
So is there any, I didn't see in the plan any discussion of species. But for some purposes, a Norway maple is just as valuable as a sugar maple. And for others, it's not. Leslie doesn't like that. But if you're making an ordinance, are you going to give the same status to a sugar maple Norway that's 12.5 inches at breast height as you would to a sugar maple? Again, that's probably not a question you could answer on the spot, but it comes up.
Yeah, and I think that the tree committee would take these questions up, would be
Isn't
dealing
that
with,
why you
like,
make the application to the tree commission to make decisions like that?
yeah, the tree commission exactly would make the decisions on that,
Mhm.
on those questions.
Okay. Linda? You muted.
How's that, better?
That's better.
Okay, so this is the asking for a friend question. How does it affect residential areas? On small, like in Berkeley Heights where I live, on small developments like that, small lots. How does it affect a tree that's on a yard or whatever? And specifically, what if the tree is within a foot of someone's fence and has the potential to damage their fence or property?
Hazard trees is in the draft that we wrote up, that you could expedite a permit, an application to cut down the hazard trees. That you wouldn't have to wait for the tree commission
But
to do
it's
that,
not,
as long as you could, kind of prove that it was a hazard.
it's not on my property though, and
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
right.
that would be one question, and I don't mean to butt in front of other people,
Go
but
ahead.
speaking of the hazardous, how do you determine that? I think the question is how you determine what is a hazard. I mean, it's mentioned in here, that hazardous tree, but there's no,
Definition of hazardous, yeah.
everything gets expedited because certainly you don't want a tree falling on somebody's car or kid or whatever. But
Hazardous tree, yeah.
how do you determine that that is a hazard? Who does that?
Document it with pictures.
Document it with pictures.
Document.
Well, I'm just asking, it's not
Yeah.
specific, it's not specific in the law here and as you have it.
There is a
Because
definition of hazardous tree in the list of definitions.
what is it?
It's pretty
But
vague. And yeah, that could be, that needs to be fleshed out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I see the definition, but it doesn't really, spell it out. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just, feedback.
Okay.
I think it would be unclear. Maybe it would be up to the commission, but that would take time to do. So clarifying that would be one.
And also we really should have a arborist as we don't even have a arborist, the town, but if there's an arborist on the tree commission who could
Right.
determine if a tree is a hazardous tree, would come out and visit it and look and assess it and say, oh yeah, that tree looks dangerous.
Right. Leslie?
You're muted.
I would invite, two things. One, I've just get back to, I gave a double thumbs down for Norway maple. In fact, Norway maple has been assessed to be an invasive species in New York, and it is one of our few regulated species. So you cannot buy that without it being labeled as an invasive species, and you can't intentionally introduce it anywhere except your own property, and then you have to be willing to control seedlings and stuff if it pops up. So I know it was just an example, but better example probably.
But you know, it's hard to evaluate or value. And we looked at this about how you know, value different pieces of timber. If you want to value them as timber, or do you want to value them for their ecosystem services? There's so many different ways that you can value them. So, you know, believe me, we've been bogged down in this for at least like 4 years. I think we've been working on it. So I would invite, if you don't think that the definitions are adequate, or you know, there's something in there that bothers you, why don't you just come forward with what you would propose? Because I think we'd be all ears to consider it. And you know, if there's any part of it that you question, I think I can't speak for the whole work group, but you know, we've been upside, you know, in and out and up and down on this thing for years. And so, you know, I would just invite you to put forth your proposal for, you know, the team and the CAC to consider.
Okay.
Right.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I think that as aesthetics and types of trees are very hard to quantify or to describe, and it just it just has to be, what am I trying to say? Heritage and specimen trees are beautiful in themselves, but one thing that I noticed in working on these various drafts is that I was opposed at first to the high fees associated with removing trees, and I think this last version is much improved, because the suggested fee for removing a tree is $450, which is reasonable, with a reasonable amount, I would say.
I'm
You
confused
mean for
about what you're
illegally
saying.
removing?
Yeah, it's not the fee for removing the tree.
Yeah.
Or
That's a penalty, right?
It's a penalty, yeah.
Right.
Trust me, the fee to remove is much greater than that.
Right.
Much greater. I've done it.
The penalty.
But I
or-
think
yeah.
I'm not clear on what Elizabeth's saying, but she's saying the penalty for removing a tree without permit. Isn't that what you're trying to say, Elizabeth?
And the trees that we're talking about are over 12 inch in diameter.
Mhm.
Those are the one, you know, we're not talking about
Yes,
a small tree.
Okay.
yes. Well, that was the aspect that bothered me for a long time, and I just think this last draft is an improvement.
Good.
Okay. Okay. So I have a question. So it starts out saying this is relative to trees that are over 12 inches. And then there's an exemption part, which I'm a little confused at, because it might even relate to what I've done in the past and whether that's proper or not. It says then it makes reference to trees less than 12 inches, and that they don't need a permit, but they need an application. And 12 inches, less than 12 inches, and then on 1/4 acre or less. So I'm a little confused, and then it also has some considerations about other trees in the area have been cut or destroyed. So if I have a situation where I have a tree, I'm thinking about these ailanthus trees, which are weed trees, which grow, you know, from the time I was here, grew from seedlings to over 4 inches in 4 years. And there's a number of them. And as they've started to shade and spread, you know, I've cut those down. Now, would it be incumbent upon me to get an application for every one of these trees that I cut down? This
Okay.
is a tree that's more than 4 inches. You know, my property is 1.5 acres. You know, I cut 2 years ago, I cut 2 or 3 of them down, and last year I cut 2 or 3 of them down. So how does that paragraph in there relate to what I've done? What would I have had to do to be able to legally, without penalty, cut down, and what applications would I have had to make?
Does somebody else want to answer that question? I mean, I could, but Carol, I think, were you the one who was suggesting that we should do application? I don't even know.
Well, it says, well, I mean, we're talking
An
about.
application, I think it's kind of to keep track of like, if people are cutting a bunch of trees, people not knowing.
Well, that's why I'm,
happening.
that's why I'm
But I
asking.
know, does anybody have
specifically.
anything to say about that besides me? Because I actually don't have a good answer to that question.
If I could
Because-
just jump in here for a second, I'm just looking at under the application shall include. Okay, in the application, it says, part of the application process, you have to include a statement as to the number of trees to be cut down, killed, or otherwise destroyed or removed. So wouldn't that mean when you give the application, you would say you're going to cut down 4 of these or 5 of these or whatever number of these trees? And it would be in the application. So you wouldn't need an application for each tree. You would put down the number of trees that you intend to remove.
Okay, but I would have to make application.
Yes, and as I
So I want to follow this through what I've done and see how it relates to what's being said on this page, so that that's a real practical way of understanding.
right,
what's going
but
in here.
with respect to the application, the discussion, as I recall, and Carol, I think you probably made the point that just to have an application so the town knows what, who is, what trees have been taken down or where. I think that was sort of one of the main points of the application, just for the record for the town. Am I remembering that correctly, Carol?
But I would have to do that. It's over 4 inches, less than 12 inches. I want to cut.
Well, I
Two
mean,
of
if we decide to keep that in, I mean, yeah, if we decide that we want that in there, we could decide not to. I think it's up for discussion.
Okay, well, I'm just, to decide whether it should be in or not, I have a practical example. So if you can respond to that practical example to tell me what I would have to do or not to do, then I could understand.
Yeah, so you would
the law
have to
better.
apply you would just put in an application to let them know you're going to cut these trees. You wouldn't have to do a fee. You wouldn't have to wait 30 days. You would just let them know. It's just like and then you do it. I mean, I think it's just to keep a record also because we feel, I mean, because I don't know. I actually, does anybody else know?
Well, that's why if you can't explain
Keep
it.
a record. Well, I didn't write the whole thing. It was a collaboration of multiple
Right.
people.
So whoever on the
I didn't
committee
write that
knows
part,
to
so
answer
I'm
my
not
question.
familiar
I
with
just
that.
want to get a very clear idea of how this affects, and here's a very practical thing that I did. So knowing how that affected what I did or what I would have to do in the future to do
Probably
that.
not anybody here hasn't taken down a few trees.
I
in their
know, but I'm
yard.
just
I've lived
asking
here for a
what.
while. You submit the application. I don't know if you need to get the actual stamped approval back before you have to do it. I didn't get back to reading the whole thing again, so.
Okay, so anyway, that's a
yeah,
question I
it's-
would have, because that's a very practical, first of all, it's a junk tree.
Right.
It's
That's what makes it
they're
difficult.
totally invasive,
Mhm.
so.
Right.
But I'm also unclear, and maybe you can clear this up, is what this reference to a 1/4 acre is. Because in 2 places, it makes, one of the conditions is that it's on a 1/4 acre. Now, does that mean your whole property's more or less than a 1/4 acre? Or does that mean the area where the tree is?
I think basically the 1/4 acre is the amount of trees. We're trying to, aiming to limit the amount of trees that are cut. So if you have less than a 1/4 acre of trees below that are smaller than 12 inches in diameter, and you want to clear cut it, you can.
Okay, so
according
that
to
was
this. You can,
just for
according to
feedback.
this. But if
just
you
for-
have, like, let's say you have two trees in there that are larger than 12 inches in diameter, you have to get a permit for that because those trees are more valuable because they serve, a lot more bigger functions and climate and all that.
Okay.
But and then if it's over a 1/4 acre, and so this is when we're looking at big developments where they're doing big where they have to get a permit to do a big clear cut for whatever purpose, or building, or just they want to cut the trees to sell them. I don't know, but It's
Okay, so-
really, the quarter acre is determining. So then, most people who have smaller properties wouldn't be dealing with it unless they're cutting a very large tree.
Right, but that reference, what's unclear to me, so maybe that could be cleared up somehow, is what the quarter acre referred to. Because when I first read it, it sounded like my whole property, more or less, than was a quarter acre. You're talking about the area within that contains these trees that you want to cut down. That's what you're referencing.
Yes.
Right, okay, so that, just for feedback, that wasn't clear to me. So
Yeah.
we're talking about this, I'm just giving you feedback on.
I mean, it's actually it makes it easier for people. I mean, it's the easy part of the thing is the quarter acre, because and most people generally, if they're a private prop owner, are not going to be cutting huge swaths of trees. But so they wouldn't even have to have a permit
So here's where
unless there's
the lack of
big trees.
clarity, you're saying they don't have to have a permit, but they have to have an application though.
Well, the application was put in there. We can discuss it whether we think it's useful. If people think we could remove it, if everybody was against the application for the less than a quarter acre, we could all discuss that. Is everything's malleable and changeable. I personally am, am kind of like, I'm not for or against that application part. If
Yeah,
some
all I'm
people,
saying-
if other people think that we should always apply no matter what, just so people know what the town has record of what's going on.
That's fine. All I'm saying is that what that quarter acre means is unclear. That's all. Not that you should use it or not use it. I'm just saying that what it seems like now you're saying it's an area of your bigger property. There are trees within a quarter acre section of your property. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so it just
That-
needs to be
that,
written more
right, it has to
clearly.
be cleared up. So,
Okay.
Linda?
I would agree with that. I think that's a very vague thing. I took it as a quarter acre lot. Many of the lots where I live are less than a quarter of acre. And I think, I think you're going to get a lot of blowback from property owners who say, well, if I've got a small lot and I want to take down a tree, I shouldn't have to go through anything to be able to do it, which I would agree, actually. Yeah, so there's some work to be done on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I can see Skip's question is valid because, a practical question. My sense is that the small this whole tree plan was more geared to large developments like Winston Farm and what might happen there. But if when this goes to the town board, I think there will be a lot of concern by private owners of relatively small properties that, why must I do this, go through all these steps on my land? I mean, I'm thinking of trees like bamboo trees that grow so fast, and people need to take care of them. So I think it would be good to clarify this issue of quarter acre.
Leslie?
Well, oh, go ahead.
Just
Go
quickly,
ahead.
bamboo's not considered a tree. It's
Oh.
kind of an herbaceous thing.
Right.
But this is
It's-
what I would suggest. There's a lot of, comment and stuff and questions. I'm not sure we're going to capture it all. So I would say, if you have comments or questions, can you send them if Nicole is willing to take them? Put a heading on the email that this is comments, CAC comment on the tree proposal. And then along with your comment or question, propose a solution or a way to clarify.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Comments? Okay, so that's the offering that the tree commission people here would like to have feedback in writing on specific sections of this thing and where they feel they need clarity or they disagree or don't agree with the thing. So,
And propose what, your alternative.
right.
Be prepared to propose an alternative.
Right. Yep.
And also, we spent so many so many rounds revising over and over and over again this. So I feel like this could become another like years and years of rounds just with the CIC. And I'm just, hoping that maybe we could just, the goal is, because we already know once it goes to the town board, we're going to be doing it again, a lot of revising too. So I'm just saying that we know it's going to go through a lot of revising. We know that some things in here might not be there anymore or might change, there's going to be, so, but yeah, we'll go through this round and then do we come back? We send it back out to the CAC and look at it again here before we go to the town board.
Okay.
Maybe one more
I
try,
think so. Yeah, I think so.
one more round.
Wait, no, I got dogs.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you, guys. I know this is a big thing to do. All right, so where are we at here? Okay, Bess. Okay, lots to talk about on Bess. Yeah, I sent out there was a couple of meetings. There was one by Key Capture at the church on the 5th. And then there was that one at the town board meeting that featured Jeff Seidman and Ian Latimer and Paul Jones. And I thought both of them were excellent. There was some blowback at the town board meeting. Some of it, understandable. Some of it, I think most of it was due to lack of information. So I think it's really important that we, we've been requested to do, position paper on this, and Stephen and I and a bunch of others have been gathering information. There's really a lot of information to gather. I think education is a point of, really bringing all the people who are afraid. A lot of it's fear. People are afraid, and I think the technology has developed beyond what they've Googled and stuff. So I think that efforts in that direction would be good. So I'm just going to preface it with that and then open it up to reactions, proposals, So does anybody want to start commenting?
Yeah.
Stephen?
You're muted, Steve.
Stephen?
Have we been asked to prepare a position paper by the town board, or
Yes.
that's official? Okay.
Talk to Mr. Barr, our liaison,
All right.
and he's prepared. So
I spoke, I talked to Fred and a couple of the other board members. We didn't have a chance to discuss it as a group at the last meeting. We didn't have an opportunity for dialogue, but Fred said, oh yeah, sure, of course, it's a good idea.
okay.
So I think that's good enough.
So we'll start that process, and it seems like putting forth the reason to be for the best, stations for those installations, to present that as why this is, necessary or admirable to do would be part of that. And then to address concerns, safety and efficacy of why these need to be would be a second part of that. Stephen, you had, we've received one communication from some opponents laying out 2 or 3 or 4, things that they're opposed to. And Stephen, you want to speak to that, what you've come up with that?
Can't hear you.
Okay. Did most of you probably got a letter from Mrs. I forgot her name, but
Claudia,
Claudia
Yeah.
Monbach.
Masback.
And
Yes.
Jenny,
Yes.
Jenny Flavin.
And I thought that was the most articulate piece of anti-BES material we've seen yet. And I talked to the people at KCE that I have corresponded with, and I've also got good input from Bill Barr. I've tried to write my personal responses to that letter as a sort of start point for how we might approach the town board, because they laid out. So I'm going to, if I may, if I can screen share. How do I? Can you let me screen share? Where do I go to?
Kevin
Hang on,
needs to give it to you.
I gotta make you a co-host.
Okay.
All right, you should have that now.
Where do I go for? I don't see my.
Down at the bottom, you should see a share button now.
Yeah, the green.
I don't have it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't appear on my screen. Well,
Why don't you just read it, Stephen?
I could send this to all of you, but it would be easier if you could read it at the same time. But,
Could you send it to Kevin and Kevin can screen share it?
Yeah,
okay.
you can email it to me.
Yeah.
All right, let me do that then. We'll talk about it just while I carry that out.
All right, so I got a very good impression. I thought that at the February 5th thing, their representatives seemed to be very straightforward in their answers, and there were some pretty, hard questions. And I felt they answered them pretty well. There was a group of people there who, were they were very concerned about the safety issues, but the information they had was old information. So I think we should, put forward more current information. And I have to say, I don't think Jenny's here, but she sent her letter around to everyone that had 3 attachments, and it was pretty dense material. But the third of those, which I forgot what it was called, the survey of best applications, that's very much worth reading because it was a great paper on what the best systems, how they support the grid. And it's more than just helping out with renewables a little bit or equalizing, the supply and stuff like that. So I would encourage everybody to read that because it really makes clear what the advantages of BESS is to the grid in, 3 or 4 pages. So I would encourage people to, did everybody get that from Jenny? I don't see, she's not here, is she?
Yes, I
Yeah,
got
it came what, today or yesterday?
Yeah, it was very
And
late
it
in
came-
coming. There was
it
3
came late.
attachments. It's the third of the attachments,
Yeah.
and it says a survey of best applications. I believe that's what it was. The thing is, it's very well researched. It lays out maybe 7 different things everywhere from renewables to, smoothing out the supply and stuff like that. And it has incredible citations with it, so it's very well documented.
Yes.
So I'd encourage people to read that.
The first 2 are
Uh,
good also.
So,
Yeah. Got it.
Skip, I have Stephen's document, so just tell me
Okay.
when you want to go.
okay, let's go.
All right.
Okay. Can we make it so we see a full page on the?
You're not gonna be able to read that if I,
Oh, the,
I can
And scroll down.
you all read this?
I can't.
well, maybe I should just read it then, and I'll send it around to everybody.
I would just enlarge it, that's fine. What you have now is fine.
I can read that myself.
Well,
Perhaps
I guess.
if it was sent around and then maybe at the next meeting, we could, talk about the salient points here.
Can you just do a synopsis of this?
Yeah,
Can you do a synopsis of
Well,
their questions and your answers? Just
the most,
summarize it.
the synopsis is that I think let me see if I can, I just need to be able to. The synopsis is that they're saying the developers aim to fool us. They pretend that the BESS will increase availability to the Hudson Valley of electricity generated by renewable resources. Their real purpose is to profit by buying electricity cheap, then releasing it when demand rises into a seller's market that has no cap on spot price. Spot price is that paid for commodity at a specific time and specified place. My response, and this is where I'll stop at with this, is the spot price is not Wild West free market. When the NY Independent Systems Operator sees that more electricity is needed within 60 minutes for the downstate grid, it accepts the lowest reliable bid for the next required amount to be uploaded. For an energy storage entity to make the lowest bid and still profit, it has to have stockpiled that power at the lowest cost then practicable. Currently in New York State, electric power generated by hydro, nuclear, wind, and solar, grouped as no carbon, is cheaper than that from gas-fired stations because the fuel is cheap. Much of the no carbon electricity is produced in or flows through the upstate grid before a substantial portion is handed off to the downstate zones through the east central connection. That's in yellow. Again, you probably can't see the map. So basically, they're saying that these people are in here to gouge us, and they don't understand that the independent systems operator is regulating the price of electricity at all times to make it as bearable as possible for the consumer. It's as simple as that. And I thank Bill Barr for pointing this out. That if the company wanted to make a giant profit and were rash, they would ask a higher price for their the next increment to put into the system, and they would not get it. So they go broke. They have to buy cheap and sell in a tightly regulated market. They can still make a profit, but all further in the future, what the writers of the letter don't understand is that as renewables become a bigger part of electricity generation, the spread between the price for renewable electricity and the price for that generated by gas is going to go up, and it'll make it even more advantageous for the operators of BESSes to buy electricity generated from renewables. So in effect, let me just go to my last summarizing sentence. They say that the BESS is a sideshow what do they say? A sideshow in the push to BESS facilities are a sideshow in the push to build out a larger renewable energy system and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Far from being a sideshow in the crucial effort to convert other forms of energy to electricity and stop using fossil fuels for that purpose, BESSes are part of the main event, along with building more solar and wind facilities and interconnecting them to long-distance transmission lines upgraded to carry more juice faster, losing less of it en route. So I'm talking today to somebody from NYISO who is going to help me explicate the pricing structure, so that I think we can convince people that having BESSes in the New York State energy system is definitely going to help consumers, not just by stabilizing, well, principally by stabilizing, but these companies want to make a profit, but they can't make excess profit. They can't gouge, which is what I think the opponents believe they plan to do. I can send this around to people and you can see more of it. We can continue to discuss it as we go along because there's no tremendous race on this.
Mike, did you want to make some comment? You asked to come in. Mike Ivino?
Yeah, so Stephen, actually, you're bringing up some good points, and anything that the CAC comes across or has that the board can use as talking points would be great. I'm approached literally every day about it. So Stephanie can definitely add a little bit more too. So the board will be working in conjunction a little bit with the planning board, cycling in and out of workshop meetings to really try to make the special use permit go as smooth as possible while simultaneously working on the zoning amendment for BES. The theory and the idea is to basically make the SUP identical to the zoning. That way, when we move forward and if we have other potential applicants, that they kind of mirror each other, and one can't say, well, you let this applicant do this and why can't we do it, or vice versa. On the fire end, emergency response end of things, I convened a meeting of all of emergency responders 2 weeks ago now. We have another one on Tuesday that we will continue to discuss what they call the ERP, Emergency Response Plan, looks like from this developer. There's truly not much that the first responder in the firematic world is really going to do if there is an issue. And what I mean by that is, so if one of these end up catching on fire, the latest and best practice is to allow the unit to burn out as hot and as fast as possible. So that basically means standing back, air monitoring, air quality monitoring, making sure that it's not, jumping from one unit to the next. If we have to do some type of cooling and suppression for the units next to them, or suppression of vegetation. So as this all comes up too, this will be stuff that comes back to the planning board workshops that we're going to start having to discuss. So we make sure that stuff's written into the SUP to kind of help prevent, like vegetation fire and whatnot. I don't see this being a financial burden for any of the emergency responders. That's another kind of hoax that has come up, that people keep bringing up. The city of Kingston's hazmat team would be, the mutual aid team for us if we actually were to need them. But even then, in conversation with the chief of the city of Kingston, this is a lithium ion battery fire is simple for us on our end. We should have in the new code, we'll have a contact. So at most, we should have to sit there for 4 hours at most to watch what's going on until what they call a subject specialist gets there to attend what's happening. And we're actually supposed to have instant access to that person as well via phone. It's pretty tumultuous. There's just a few. I don't think there's even a group. There's just a few people that are constantly going back and forth on a couple different things. I think this is in my opinion an easy lift that we can methodically work through, and it'll be a big benefit for the town. We're also seeing Another applicant that just came up the other night, solar field paired with battery storage. So I think it's not out of reach. We got a lot of work to do, and Stephanie has been great working with NYSERDA and other people who are in this field to start getting the zoning underway. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike.
So Mike,
Yep.
these workshops, I gather, are going to be open to the public. Is that the plan?
I don't see why not, unless somebody else has
I think it's a good idea.
objection to that.
Yeah.
We do have a meeting on the books, but I know Howie. So the group keeps growing as far as who's in attendance. Stephanie, do you happen to remember?
Yeah, please make this clear what the workshops are.
Yeah,
and
I'd like
who's
to
involved.
understand
would
that
be
too.
really- That
I'm
would
on the-
really help.
Yeah.
I don't have the attendee list, Mike.
I thought it was the planning board,
So it'll
and
be
that it would be at a planning board session, no?
well, so the planning board obviously can operate in their capacity, right?
Right.
So we have started our meeting. Stephanie, when is that meeting? Next week? Right?
Which meeting? Sorry, Mike.
This is the meeting with NYSERDA and I believe Paul Rogers is going to come back. Adriana will be in attendance. Paul Arios.
So you're talking about when you say we, you mean the town board.
So just give me a second. Let me try to pull the email up. So we're gonna have a meeting on the 25th. Howie has been informed about that. So in attendance so far will be Stephanie, myself, I would assume Howie and two other planning board members can attend that because that wouldn't be a quorum, I believe, right, Carol?
Right.
The town engineer, the town planner, a representative from NYSERDA.
Well, is that Ian? Will Ian?
Yep, Ian's on the email here. I'm assuming that those representatives might, mix a little bit here and there because they are in high demand. I mean, we were very fortunate to get Ian, Jeff, and Paul here in the timely fashion we did because originally they told me April, and I said we can't wait until April, so they pulled it off for us. And basically, what that group will do is continue to work on the potential zoning and what that zoning looks like moving forward.
Starting from the template that NYSERDA has prepared and been updating with most recently with Town of Poughkeepsie.
And that's on the 25th, and that's open to the public?
Isn't that more like a working group rather than a public meeting? Am I understanding it in that way, Mike?
That's why I'm asking.
I think Stephanie, you and I should kind of circle back on that and then maybe, either continue the working meeting and then have public sessions or just advise on that, maybe at town board meetings. I don't know what that would look like just yet.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. And I just say my first instinct is that our process will be better perceived, and community relations is a big part of this process. I really think that the town's process will be better received and perceived when it's well managed and when the information that is presented by the town or agents of the town is cooked, to a point where, it's just like deciding that you're at 50% complete or 75% complete and you're ready to
launch.
Yeah, or ready to engage in a more open review process. I just,
So does
Um,
that mean you are advocating for people to be there or not?
not at the working group sessions, but that there, to Mike's point, that there will be scheduled open meetings / presentations that we just have to put more detail on when those would happen and what they would
Because
look like.
because that's for sure, that's another issue, what you mentioned with the public view and trust and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Criticism is you guys are doing all this in secret.
which
So,
is not accurate, but
well, I know I don't, I'm not saying
yeah,
it is. I am not
yeah,
saying it is. I'm
yeah,
just
got
saying
it. Yeah,
you both mentioned that involvement of the public and having this openness is important. And there's a lot of people who are criticizing, rightly or not,
Yeah.
that their questions aren't being asked. So I'm not saying that that's true. I'm just saying that it is.
oh, totally. Yes, it's evident and it's unfortunate. And our our shared goal is to get ahead of that and just show by our actions that this is a well-managed,
Right.
community-involved process.
So
So
if CAC could know about that, whether we're included or not, to know about that, so that when people come to us, like the letter Stephen got, or we all got from, those who are against this, we can answer not only those technical questions like Stephen's answered, but the questions about the process itself and assure people, because I think that you're right, that is very important. So if
yeah,
we have knowledge of what's happening when and who is open, like I had some things with Mike about when people could come in front of the commission because they said, people were saying to me, oh, they're doing this in secret and, we can't answer questions of anybody. But Mike said, well, the fire commission has meetings and people are welcome to come there. So that's significant, whether they come or not, at least they have the opportunity. So
Yeah.
knowing that is an important thing and be able to relate that so people don't think some deals being made, because I've heard that's Freddie's on the take. I mean, come on. I mean, it gets really, really ridiculous.
yeah,
Anything that can
really
be,
quickly. But just to respond to that, Skip, what I have volunteered to build website content for the town to host a page on Bess, which will be um, similar to the Winston Farm content in terms of providing a calendar of what has happened and what will happen,
great.
including every moment of planned community engagement on this, and also to thank you, Stephen, and also to post content about Bess, which is neutral and fact-based, and any sort of bibliography that is is useful to support an informed process on this. So that's in development. We have resources from NYSERDA, and I would also just last bit, I would ask the memo that Stephen was describing. If I didn't catch the author of that the that you were describing a few minutes ago, Stephen, if you could just share that again, please.
Manbach, I think. I'll send the letter she sent. Maybe you didn't get on her mailing list.
Oh, no, I got that letter. I thought you were describing another resource, but maybe I was mistaken.
Oh, I have things from dialogues with people from KCE that they would be willing to make available if you want those.
Okay, I'll follow up with you, Stephen. How about that?
Yes,
Just to
yes, question and answer with them.
So
okay.
just to add to Stephanie, I don't have a problem with including, a couple members from CAC in our planning meetings in those, those working meetings. And even just as a point of maybe even just, there to gather the information to be able to speak on it as well, because, obviously, I'm sure more people go to different people to ask certain questions and so on and so forth. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. And I think, having people like Steven, who are engaged quite often, I think that pool of knowledge and those questions that come to the table are going to make that SUP, a dynamite piece of paper in the end that's going to, do everything that we want it to do and address everybody's concerns. That, I might not hear, you might not hear, but
What does SUP mean, Mike?
special use permit. So the applicant will move forward under the special use permit. I think it's kind of, it's pretty cool in the sense that this applicant came up and it came up in a location that, in my opinion, is probably the best location for it in the town. We've had a couple conversations about locations of others. I would love to see, some battery storage at the transfer station tied into that solar array. The chiller at the ice rink is our largest electrical consumer in the town. I'd love to see being able to just put 1 or 2 containers at the ice rink. That way that chiller, we're looking at the cost savings there, especially, most of the time that's ramping up during peak hours. But as we move the SUP and the zoning along, we'll be able to identify, other places and, keep it a fluid working document.
Okay,
Yeah,
Linda. I'm sorry.
I just note that we have been offered, Mike, the opportunity to visit the site. I haven't walked up there, or not walked, I haven't been up there. And I think the experience of the location is really important to understanding how it's being described by the developers. And Mike, I wondered if you had a sense of when that visit might be able to be scheduled, and if we can widen the invitee list to interested board and other board and committee members, so that we're all we all have the same knowledge base as we're working through this issue.
So Paul Williamson is very receptive, very on point. I mean, I could literally text him that question right now and he'd get back to me. I actually visited the site on Monday with some of my officer staff from the fire district because the solar array, the planning board inquires with the fire department on access and mobility through the project. So I was up there. We could get a group together and contact Paul at any time, and I'm sure that they'll accommodate us.
So Linda has her hands up.
Yeah, the letter that Mike was attached that Mike wrote, has that been presented anywhere yet? Or because I wasn't able to go to any meetings.
The letter I wrote.
Yes.
So I have not put that out. I don't know if anybody's on Facebook. I had a controversial issue last night with Elizabeth Reese. Very, very contentious and bizarre, to say the least. I was having dinner at one of the new establishments and she approached me twice, and on the second time, the ownership ended up removing her. So I put that letter in front of our firehouse attorney and I put it in front of our town attorney. I really treading lightly on what is going to be out there, just for precaution of how we're moving forward in the planning of everything. I don't want something to come back, so I'm just waiting.
I gotta say, I think this is outstanding. I read it through. It's like, wow. I think it's very powerful.
Good.
Very, very, very powerful.
I appreciate
I
that.
also love your Arbor Barber title.
Thank you.
So Mike, I thought it was clear that I could let that out. Was that not the case?
If it does go out in certain instances, that's
I mean,
fine.
it did. It did. It went out to
That's
everybody
fine.
in the CAC.
That's
So
fine.
I thought you said it was okay. So
Okay.
But
I just didn't send it to news outlets or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I thought you were going to. That's why I let it out.
wow, that's really great.
So,
Thank you.
right.
The comment on comparing BESS to nuclear energy really drove that letter, because that sent me off the rails.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. Bill?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to make a suggestion when we're having meetings to avoid the accusation that we're, doing secret dealings. One could invite a member. There's some risk in choosing who that's going to be, I know, but one member of the public to attend the meeting. You don't have to invite everybody. But you could say we're willing to, bring on one person as a representative of the suspicious public. Just a thought.
I wonder if it could be formalized a little bit more, Bill, to be like a community liaison position so that there would be like a consistent like person or very small group of people who would be called upon to like represent community interests rather than it just being kind of a grab bag who wants to show up each time.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
wise.
Not a bad idea.
Somebody we know we don't want to show up, but
Or invite them to every single meeting and
yeah.
Our meetings
I
are
mean,
open
that
to
is the best
public.
policy, just openness,
yeah.
I think you run the risk of that with, you don't know what they're going to say afterward out there, and if it will be an accurate representation of what went on. I think that could come back.
We're
Okay, wait.
open to the public,
We are, but
and our
All right,
agenda
let's
is open.
wait. Let's raise our hands if we want to say something. It's getting too crazy here. So
Yeah.
Carol's got her hand up. Carol?
First of all, I'm delighted to see that the town board is so on board about this, so to speak. And thank you. And I was, and I don't know if I still am a CAC member as well as a planning board member. I was the liaison, and I would love to be considered as a part of this group, if that's possible. But I imagine there's many others who would like to be a part of it as well. I've been to many different groups through a variety of places, learning about about battery energy saving. And so thank you.
So while you have the floor here, do you want to say something? The planning board was next. Do you want to say something about this process? Do you want to add in
No, I was just curious about the this workshop. I had understood from Adriana that it was going to be the planning board with the town board, but if it isn't, that's fine. I just didn't, that was my understanding. But I don't understand how that would work unless it's a public hearing, because then we would have a quorum.
Right.
We would, obviously have a quorum at that.
So, Carol, just to touch on that, I think the way that Howie, myself, and Adriana kind of discussed it is we would rotate 3 members in and out.
Okay.
And I was actually kind of hopeful that you would be one of those steadfast, solid members who were there for the entire duration.
Well, I'm solid.
And steadfast, definitely.
Okay. Ken, you have your hand up?
I do. Thanks, Gil. I just want to mention that a discussion is taking place about town board business, and we happen to have a majority of the town board attending this meeting.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I'll
One of them gotta get off.
I can step out.
I've
No,
said my piece.
we're talking about transparency, and the public, suspicious that things are being discussed and done. And that's one of the reasons why the open meeting law requires that if you have a majority of a committee like the town board, it has to be advertised and made available to people. And here we go. We're doing exactly that.
Well, it's open. This meeting is open to the public. and was
Yeah, but it
presented
hasn't been
tonight.
advertised as being a meeting where majority of the town board would attend.
Got it. Okay. Point
But it's
taken.
not a town board meeting. This is
I
not
was
a town board meeting. It's not an official town board meeting. It's a
But
CAC meeting.
Ken
So
is right about that law.
No, he's right.
he's right about that law, but I don't believe that that restricts us from attending.
That's my
Okay.
point.
You
That's
can
my point.
attend, but you can't discuss things that the town board is and will be discussing and voting on.
Okay.
This has been an issue for many, many years.
No.
Whatever
Wait.
the town board consisted of, whoever was on it, whichever party had a majority, this has been an issue for many, many years. And it's why there's this big issue of transparency and people believing, rightly or wrongly. Again, like Skip, I'm not saying it's one way or the other. And in general, I would not have a problem with that. I trust all of you not to be doing things behind the population's backs. But on the other hand, we're doing it.
Mhm.
No,
So
but
on that note, I've said my piece.
No, don't leave, Mike. I want to ask you a question.
I'm gonna be the biggest offender tonight.
There's a lot that I could say about what Ken is reinforcing, but I am 75% of what we're talking about here is process or more. 75% or more is about process and getting the process right. So if we're constrained from organizing an appropriate process with a specific goal of community involvement, then I don't know. I guess I should run for state assembly and change the
No,
open
I
meetings
just-
law, but
I just
that's
think this should be cleared what you can and cannot do with the town attorney. So,
yeah.
So it's clear.
That's-
And also when you say 75 or 85%, that still leaves 15%
Mhm.
that is not processed. I just don't want people having any reason to believe something is going on
Exactly.
behind their backs. For somebody to say, well, I was listening in on a meeting where a majority of the town board was present, and they were talking about whether BESS is a good thing to do, whether a good location might be by the Kiwanis. I mean, these are things the town board is going to have to discuss, and people, may not really be comfortable with that, or at least some people may not be. And you could run into problems in future. I trust every one of you. What I'm saying is you can't do things based on the people who are doing it, because once you do something, anybody in future who's in the same position has a precedent. That's all, Stephanie. So I'm not saying there's a problem, but I'm saying check it out with the town attorney.
Yeah, heard.
okay.
I that's appreciate the note.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, Ken.
Sure.
Mike Harkavy.
Hey, can we get back to best? Thanks, Ken. I'm glad you spoke up. I have a question concerning the siting of the solar array, because that was a new thing for me. I talked with Bill a little bit about that. And I also had called Dougie Meyer wondering about siting of BESS units at our landfill. He's also got a major installation. So I'm just wondering if you could explain how that might be a benefit, a selling point in terms of the BESS installation being able to distribute electricity at a lower cost. Does the siting of an array next to it increase the positive view of it?
So I think Stephen might be able to answer that question maybe just a little bit better, but typically solar is community aggregate, where the transmission sited batteries won't directly benefit the community, but they're going to benefit overall because they're going to help subsidize the grid per se,
Right.
where the solar fields will be, like our solar field at the transfer station is community aggregate. So that'll be a direct benefit to the town. And if I'm missing anything, anybody please chime in.
Can I know it's out of turn, but the fact that it's located near a substation makes a difference. And makes it much easier for that power to go into the grid than it would be from Doug Myers, for instance. And I'm not exactly sure how that all works.
Well, Doug Myers will have to be close to something because his stuff's going into the grid.
His stuff goes into the grid, so he's got a transformer, an inverter, and everything else. But the actual substation is what makes it easier, from my understanding, for this power to go in and out of the grid.
So
Yes, but that it's still, you have to understand that these electrons just go into the grid. They don't go anywhere.
Absolutely,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, whether it's easier, it's for the technicians to discover or to decide where things go. And it really does, it doesn't make any difference to our discussions here. I mean, that's a technical issue.
Well,
Whether
okay, it just, the closer it is to a substation, my understanding is that it's better.
it's
That's
easier for
all.
the transmission to happen, but
Correct.
it's not better or worse relative in any value that we're talking about. Still going the same place.
I guess my
Pretty much,
question
yeah,
is, does the array hook up to the best installation?
You could.
I think they have.
That's what I'm asking.
I understood that they had their own. They were going to have their own best.
Correct. The array will be a connection to BESS prior to the connection of the grid.
Right, and it's their own. It's not the same. It's not Key Capture's best, but their own best. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Nexam is the
Right.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but I don't, so my understanding is, and I could be wrong, that Nexamp, it was planning to use the key capture and in using that, everything's all there.
That's what I'm
Could be
asking.
wrong.
Somebody should find that out because
Yeah,
I
I
heard
can
the
find that
opposite.
out.
So that seems to be, and what difference would that make?
In terms of
Any-
their ability to supply a lower price. Heat. If they have a source of electricity to store right there, does that affect the price that they deliver to the grid?
It might, but I think it would be a different function. Instead of going in and out of the grid, they'd be utilizing the solar thing. And that's why I think the solar is going to have their own storage systems.
Well, can we find that out?
Because they didn't, any of the meetings, Paul Williamson or none of the people from Key Capture mentioned that at all. That would be a selling point, or that would be a strategic point. And none of them have mentioned that at all. So
okay,
we can find out for sure, but I don't think so, because they would have mentioned that collaboration, because that would be a salient point.
Yeah. I have the plans and I can check it out. I'll get back to everybody.
Stephen, you have your hand up?
thanks, Carol. I'd like to know.
Just a small unofficial thing. On the 25th, that's Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30, there's a Bess and Beer session at the Black Duck Pub on 79 Hurley Avenue. Apparently, Jeff Seidman is going to be there, and maybe
All
maybe
three of them
Ian.
are. All three of them are.
So I can send around an RSVP, which I received from somewhere, if anybody might like to put that on their calendar. It's
So
very informal.
New York Citizens for Clean Power is putting
Yes,
that on.
yes. So if anybody wants an invitation, I'll send it along, or just show up at that time.
Could you repeat what time it is?
It's 5:30 to 7:30 on Wednesday, the 25th, at the Black Duck which is 79 Hurley Avenue.
I think it's Blue Duck.
Or is it Blue Duck? Maybe. Okay, thank you. Some
duck.
some duck, yes.
Okay, Carol, you have your hand up? Okay. So, does anybody else want to comment on this? I mean, Carol was in the planning board, so she might have some statements that are relative to this all. I know she sent me some responses. There was Key Capture was queried about their safety program and stuff like that. She sent me responses to that. You want to comment
I
on
think
that,
I
Carol?
sent it to everybody this afternoon, I believe.
Yes.
Did.
So basically the present, people were worried about the fact that it was being presented to us this past Wednesday and Tuesday rather.
Tuesday.
Boy, this has been one of those weeks. Sorry. And as you can tell from what Mike Ivino was saying, is that there's going to be a whole lot more before we have a public hearing. So, but there were maybe 6 people who showed up for this, it was not clear exactly where they stood on it, but at the very end, somebody presented us with one of those. That was the Claudia, last person's name. I'm sorry, I don't remember. And
Smash bomb. Good.
yeah, so I would say that everybody on the planning board asked a lot of really good questions. Some of it had to do with business stuff. How does this work? What does the town get out of this? So that was one of the questions that one of them presented, and I gather it's tax revenue. And I don't know enough about how that works, Mike. I don't know if you can talk to that, Mike Ivino, or how does the tax, do we get some part of what is paid for the kilowatts? Do we get some part of that as taxes? Is that how it works?
I don't know the exact breakdown of that. The meeting that I have on the 24th, I will have, those are part of my
A better
questions.
sense.
And then hopefully, I don't see that there's, from everything that I get and I understand, there's not much of a direct benefit from this project, more of like the indirect benefit to the grid and upgrades to,
Right.
Central Hudson users as a whole. That's kind of what I understand. But
Well, in term, I know that we had a meeting with Paul Williamson. He said he used the word pilot, but what he said is they're going to try to, relative to taxes. Yes, you're going to get taxes. How those taxes are levied, because this is such a new technology, that model has to be worked out. But he said there would be definitely a community benefit package. So the way the taxes work, do you tax them on the land? Do you tax them on the batteries? Do you tax them on the containers? That's because this is so new, that's up in the air. And that's part of coming together and making a pilot to understand and break ground on how that's going to happen. But separate from that, he said there would be a community benefit package.
Right.
That's what he said to us.
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to point out real quick, what you said, Skip, is right. He said that it's a new technology. They don't know how to assess it yet for tax purposes. So they want to know how much they're going to spend. So when they say pilot, they really mean literally payment in lieu of taxes. They want to pay. It's not to avoid paying taxes. So they will offer an amount that they think is a reasonable amount that we hopefully would accept for 2 or 3 years until the assessment gets ironed out. Can I ask a question? You guys, just as a sincere question to the CAC about community solar. Does community solar directly benefit Saugerties utility bills or electricity bills?
No, how that, I can explain how that works.
Okay, so it just goes into the grid too.
It just goes into the grid and the electrons go what
Okay.
they want. It was a
All right.
program that was
all
designed
I
by
need to
the
know.
state to assist in getting more solar.
Yeah,
And because people would go through they call it a subscription. You get a monetary discount on your bill. You're not paying for power. You're getting a monetary discount on your bill because you're a subscriber to community solar. And because that enables them to be funded and put energy into the grid. That's how that works. It has
okay.
nothing to do with your source of power, like signing up, like a community source aggregation is actually the town's buying for the best price and getting a power source that's cheaper. So that's the difference between CCA and community solar is that one's just a monetary boost for the industry and for the customer, as
And
opposed.
just to follow up on that, I believe when we did community solar through the Ulster County program, it was up to a 10% credit on your bill. And
But it's only a monetary credit and has nothing to do with paying for your
Right.
supply of power. That's the
no,
thing people have.
absolutely not. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so that's what people have
it's a
trouble.
it's a very small, it's very small amount credit on your bill. Very
Yes,
small.
right.
Thank you.
Stephen, you have your hand up?
Mute,
You're
Stephen?
muted.
mute,
Stephen?
unmute.
You're mute.
We're
Stephen,
in
you're
community
muted.
solar Green Street project, and we get a small discount. So that in that sense, it lowers our bill. But you're saying that well, I guess we could say it lowers our bill to be in.
It is only a monetary discount on your bill. It's not paying for the power that you're receiving from the grid.
Right.
It's
Okay.
a monetary incentive. It's not buying power.
Got it.
Skip. I sorry to keep. I don't know how to raise my hand. I don't know where that function is or what.
You look, you go on the bottom, your bottom thing, and it says react.
Okay.
Press that heart
Ah,
react, and
okay.
it'll let you
Gotcha.
raise your hand. It'll say raise hand.
I see that now.
Okay.
With that though, unless anybody has anything else for me, I've got to sign off and head to the firehouse.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
your
for
input.
coming.
Thanks for
Great.
your
Thanks,
activity.
thanks very much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, thanks for being a fireman. We all appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
And just
Thankfully.
keep us informed of what workshops we may or may not be able to, attend, because we're definitely, any information we can get will add to any kind of statement that we can make. And the
We're
more
gonna-
informed we are, the better.
We're gonna nail that time down between now and tomorrow morning for the 25th. I'm assuming between Howie and Carol, we'll get 3 representatives from the planning board there, the town planner, the town engineer, a rep from Key Capture will probably be in and out of these discussions, and Latimer will be involved in that, and we could discuss more. But I think 1 or 2 people from CAC would be an important attribute to that group. So,
Okay, good. All right, thanks.
All right.
Mike. Yep,
all right,
thanks.
take
Thank you,
care,
Mike.
everybody. Stay well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So does anybody else have?
I'm gonna have to go myself. I'm
Okay.
not a firefighter, but I have to go light a fire on the range and cook some dinner. So
Okay.
you
Thank
are
you
a
so
town
much.
board member, so thank you.
thanks everyone.
I have to check out also because my battery is running out. So if I just die right here, it's because my computer died. So I'm going to go get a charger.
Okay.
You need a Tesla Powerwall.
Call Key Capture. They got a lot of batteries.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so
Oh, just,
how to go forward on this
Mhm.
is I'm not really sure, but I hope everybody will, if they didn't go to either of the informational meetings, at least go online for the link I gave, because Seidman and especially Latimer and Paul Rogers all were very, very informative, and we should keep up the speed on this. And so, and also, if I can encourage you, it's kind of dry reading, but again, what Jenny Flavin had offered, that third one will really make it crystal clear what happens with the BES and the grid. It really, like, really made it really clear to me. I didn't want to read it. Oh, more of this stuff. Oh, man. But it really, it's got 7 points or something that really make it clear how important and how advantageous a BES is to the grid. And having our having clarity on that will be very important when we speak to other people, because people are approaching me all the time, asking me, and I feel much more confident now that I can tell them what happens with grid, because one of the main questions is, what the heck good is this for Saugerties?
Right.
And if you can explain, the different ways it advantages the grid, that's really important. And thinking of the grid as an aquifer, and we're all drinking out of it. Whatever helps that aquifer helps us all. And then the other thing is that there is going to be a community benefit package. Paul Williamson said that specifically, separate from the pilot. And the pilot, again, as we talked tonight, has to be a pilot. That has a bad connotation, because it means,
Right.
and a lot of people say, oh, they're getting out of the taxes. They're not getting out of the taxes. They just they
know
haven't
how.
figured out how to assess for the taxes. So and I, think they're really interested in doing something good. They're talking about at least $250,000 the first year and several million over the life. So there is benefit to the community other than supporting the grid. There's going to be financial benefit to the community also.
Right.
Mike, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had talked to you, sent out an email about Central Hudson bills. Just tell people to look at their bill. And the delivery costs are every month double the cost of the electricity.
Right.
Yeah.
If
And
the
BES
grid
will
is-
help reduce that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're talking about benefits, that's where people look. That's where people complain. The delivery cost can only go up unless we assist the grid, because there's going to be tremendous amount of money that Central Hudson is going to have to put into upgrade to keep up with the demand.
Hi.
Just tell them to look at their bill, and I am sure that their delivery cost will be more than 50% of what they're paying.
Carol?
So that now that you brought up that's a whole other thing that I wanted to think about too. Because if I looked at my Central Hudson bill, they charge me by the kilowatts I use on the delivery charge. So if I'm using a lot of kilowatts, I'm still going to have to pay for that delivery, no matter
Yeah,
where those
definitely.
electrons came from.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one piece. But the other is I'm really interested in the NISO, Steve. And if there's, I'm looking forward to that whole process by which they determine how much something is worth at that moment. Like Seidman had done that great slide of the peak. There was some heat, extreme heat in June of some year. And
25.
in the morning,
24.
24, June 24th of 2024.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the morning, it was worth $21, let's say, for a
Right.
megawatt. And then by 3 o'clock, it was worth 100. And then by 5 o'clock, it was worth 2,000. I'm making it up. But it was this extreme change in the price for megawatts. So how do they determine those things and how quickly? And it must be an extraordinary system that they use to determine the cost of a megawatt. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
And another thing about NISO, and one thing that Seidman, I don't know if it was Seidman or Latimer, said, that the grid, it's a balance. What comes in and what goes out has to be balanced. And batteries help that because it reduces that need to have exact balance of what goes in and what goes out. Without that, capacity to store and to release,
Mhm.
it makes it much more difficult for the grid to stay in balance. And that's the amazing thing that they do of keeping that in balance. And this mitigates that. That was a big point. It makes it easier for the grid to operate without, and then without further, less infrastructure being supplied. So, and infrastructure is a much more, you know, key capture is paying for the batteries, you
You
know.
know,
So we pay for the, if they put up more lines, we pay for our delivery charges go up. So, Bill?
yeah, just to add to that, one of the key capture guys pointed out to me, he said, when the demand goes down, usually when electricity is cheap, to keep that balance, the the people generating electricity shut down the plant
Huh.
and quit producing electricity. And then they have to fire it up again when the demand goes up.
The guy from
And
Dam Scammer of the peaker, he
yeah,
says it takes 18 hours to fire that thing up. So if you have an emergency, the batteries
so
can shoot it in there right away. It takes
so you
Dan.
can see batteries can absorb, they can keep sucking up the juice
Mhm.
during the low demand when it's cheap and abate that charge there too.
I think we're all preaching to the choir. I mean, we're,
Well,
we're
that's
But I
just,
think
I
that's a
wasn't,
great image.
yeah, I
Well,
wasn't aware of that.
we have to know, we have to have that information at our command so we can talk to other people when they come to us. You know, so
the
this
only
is
thing that
important.
I disagreed with Paul Rogers' presentation. I thought it was poor optics that he had a picture of a burning building on the screen for several minutes, even though Jeff Simon said it's not a best facility. Just the look of a burning building was not very encouraging, I thought.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so does the town liaison want to say anything?
No, I've spoken quite enough. Thank you.
Okay, well, you were on the menu here, so.
Oh, okay. I'll
So,
try to have something next time.
okay, so does anyone want to add anything else? Or are there any
I was
announcements?
just gonna say that at the next board meeting, the planning board meeting, we're gonna be doing, they're supposed to come back with views of, from different points for the solar farm that's gonna be done at, basically in the same area. So, you know, if you're interested, you should come. They'll have photos, we're taking it from, you know, Winston Farm, we're taking it from a variety of places, asking them to show us what it might look like, or will you be able to see it? Because it's actually quite a chunk of land that they're going to have to deforest. So that's something that we have to think about too.
Mm.
It's right on the edge of I-87, a little further north than Saugerties Manor Road ends. So that's it.
How many
Okay.
acres?
I don't remember. I'm sorry. I think it was 14. It's carved out of a piece of land that goes all the way to People's Road, I believe. KTP owns all of this, and I don't know who they are. Does anybody know who they are? And they're the ones who actually own the land that they're selling to Nexamp, or they're renting to, leasing to Nexamp and to Key Capture.
They were the printers that used to print
No,
out
I think I think it's a different,
KTB.
KTP.
right?
Oh,
It's a different,
KT.
I think it's a
T
different,
and then P as in princess.
Oh, no, that's not. Okay.
Carol, how many trees will they have to cut down?
I haven't counted. I don't know. A lot of them.
That's why we need a tree
Right,
ordinance.
so
We
if we
needed
charge
to.
them $450, we just, I
unless
don't.
they get an application.
So one of the things that I would love for us to get to at some point is to understand greenhouse gases versus, you know, taking down a bunch of trees versus the benefit of, you know, in this case, solar panels. So something that we could think about and talk about later.
Do you know how big this is? The towns is 2 megawatts. What is this?
This one's going to be 5, somewhere
Oh,
between 3.45 and 5.
it's about double the town.
Yeah. So you figure it would be double the area. Linda, you have your hand up?
Yes, reminder again, we tried to have the Repair Cafe on February 7th. The weather was bitter cold and windy, so we rescheduled to March 7th. So you still have time to gather up all your items that need fixing and come on down to the senior center on March 7th, anytime between 10 and 2.
Okay.
We'll fix them
Oh,
for you.
so-
If you want to learn how to fix your own stuff, we'll teach you how to do that too.
So I just found out it's on 22.4 acres.
Wow.
Okay.
All right, and you're calling it Next Amp, but it's actually a company that has a different name than that.
Nexamp owns it. This is the name Solar Ridge, I think is what it's called. No, Esopus Ridge.
so that's-
Opus Ridge.
Esopus Ridge LLC, but
Right.
it's Nexamp.
Okay, so it's Next Amp using that as their project name.
Correct.
I
Correct.
got it. I got it. Okay. All right, any other comments? All right. Well, this has been enlightening.
Interesting times.
Yes, right. So again, let's bone up on as much information as you can get on Beth. You know, I'll go to meetings if we have to, you know.
So do we want to, they mentioned that there could be some people from the CAC.
I
And
hope
so
they will get a hold
does
of us.
anybody want to do that? Does anybody here, or do we want to, how do we want to decide who goes on the 25th?
I don't want to go then because I would like to go to that beer and best thing.
You know, that best thing at the beer, it's exactly the same
Exactly the
people
same.
Yes.
as came to the town board, so.
But beer,
I'd like to,
different.
be able to talk to them a little bit. I never spoke to any of them, so.
Okay,
so,
all right.
After that,
Well, I would volunteer to go if. the
yeah, and
other
I
people-
plan to be there too, but that's in a different role.
Well, two's enough.
Mike doesn't want to go.
There's a crowd.
No.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, do we want to adjourn?
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Nicole.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Mary.
Thank
you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everybody.
Thanks,
Good night.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you all.
Nice
Good
to
to
see
see
you,
you all.
Ken.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.